perception of impropriety, because in doing so, we're able to tackle two issues at once. One, legitimate concerns about conflict of interest, whether it is a member being able to have access to things like, briefings that require security clearances, and being able to kind of commingle both that experience and the ability to trade stock. Not only that, but also
a lot of action is finally being taken by Congress to help families that are financially struggling right now. Due to the crisis, millions will be able to claim stimulus of up to $200 a month. And now a national average gas price has fallen slowly in mid-July, down to $4.67 from the record high of just $5 in June 2022. According to AAA, the drop occurred in spite of increased demand, sparked by holiday weekend travel and summer vacations. But many Americans are still struggling to fill their tanks while juggling other expenses. California Democrats Representative Khanna and Sheldon Whitehouse have proposed a big oil windfall profits tax in a stated effort to reduce gas prices even further. Under the legislation, large oil companies like ExxonMobil would pay a per barrel tax equal to 50% of the difference between the current price per barrel and the pre-crisis average price and the pre-crisis level before. Tax revenue would go back to taxpayers earning less than $75,000 or $150,000 filing jointly as a quarterly rebate to alleviate some of the ongoing pain at the pump. Lawmakers in Congress estimate that single filers get roughly $240 a year and that joint filers cash in on about $360 annually. Democratic Representative Jamal Bowman and Bernie Sanders have introduced complementary legislation targeting price gougers in the oil and gas sector. A bill proposed by 3 House Democrats would send money every month to families when the national average for gas is more than $4 a gallon. Under the legislation proposed by Mike Thompson, John Larson, and Lord Underwood, eligible families would receive $100 per month plus another $100 for each dependent. In the meantime, many states have enacted or are working on implementing a gas tax holiday to provide some relief from high gas prices this summer. As recently as mid-June, President Biden was still considering a federal gas tax holiday, a move which could save Americans 18 cents a gallon. This week, gas costs less in South Carolina, Georgia, Texas, and Tennessee than it did before. And since the enhanced child tax credit reverted to its original maximum of $2,000 per child, similar initiatives by the U.S. government have been stalled. In response, many states have begun to introduce their own child tax credit programs, varying in scope and available credit amount. The Pennsylvania state has now joined 12 other states providing relief through state legislated child tax credits and deductions. The governor, Tom Wolf, has recently signed off on the state's new $45 billion budget.
The industry has gone up. It is now at $76 billion. And the corporate lobbyists working on this bill, like pigs at the trough, are not yet finished. They want more and more and more. Their needs are insatiable. Mr. President, needless to say, I do not usually quote approvingly from the editorial page of the Wall Street Journal. They are not my best friends, and in fact, I think I get attacked on that page more than any other member of the Congress.
Eligible citizens will receive $500 universal basic income payments for a year via direct deposit or through a prepaid debit card. The state of Maine has sent out more than 450,000 relief payments to date, with thousands of more set to hit mailboxes in the coming weeks. The $850 checks are approved early this year by the bipartisan majority in the legislature as part of the budget signed by Governor Mills. Will go to nearly 1 million Mainers. The state is processing about 200,000 checks a week, and most should receive the checks by the end of July. The $1.2 billion state budget approved in April set aside more than half the total amount to be sent back to Mainers. During recent calls for a suspension of the state gas tax, which Mills opposes, she has pointed to state relief checks as a way for Mainers to cover high gas and grocery costs. Delaware officials have also proposed $300 stimulus checks to help them offset the impact of inflation. The Delaware stimulus checks will go to residents who filed a 2020 tax return. The lawmakers in the state, House, and Senate said they have reached a consensus on a direct payment plan, and lawmakers will come up with the legislation, and the authorities would use the state's $1 billion surplus the Senate Delaware stimulus check. The proposal is expected to be fast-tracked as it enjoys the support from both the Republicans and the Democrats. Bernie Sanders is now urging every one of his Democratic friends to support a brand new stimulus package. This bill would include expand monthly benefits for millions of people. $250 one-time relief checks would also be deposited. And on the Senate floor this week, Bernie Sanders had harsh words for fellow members of Congress who have been crafting a bill to give major microchip companies a $52 billion in funding, while ignoring pressing issues that are faced by the middle and lower class in the United States. Sanders told his colleagues, at a time of massive income and wealth inequality, the American people are sick and tired of unprecedented level of corporate greed that we are seeing right now. Sanders pointed out that everyday Americans are facing soaring inflation and the worst income inequality in 100 years. Sanders told reporters that instead of focusing on things like renewing the expanded child tax credit, passing Medicare for all, the Senate is focused on corporate handouts. Sanders went on to criticize the conservatives like Manchin, who have pointed directly towards the deficit when it comes to helping the American.
Impacting her constituents. I yield such time as she may consume to young Kim.
Thank you to my friend and colleague French Hill for yielding. Families, workers, and small businesses are hurting from the highest inflation in over 40 years. And in Southern California, where I'm from, everything is more expensive. Inflation doesn't discriminate. It impacts every American and hurts small businesses and workers with less income the most. For example, Raul and Rosalinda Davis, owners of Tlaquepaque restaurant in Placentia in my district, told my office, and I quote, "Higher gas prices and issues with our supply chain are leading to increasing costs from everything from beverages to meat for ingredients to workforce shortages. As a restaurant, we run our small business with very tight revenue margins, and a small change in prices can really hurt our bottom line. If we have to pass on higher costs to our customers, it puts us in a tough..."
Ask that the calling of the quorum be suspended.
Without objection.
I'm hearing a lot of news reports, and if they're correct, it sounds like the majority party has a very partisan bill that they want to call a drug pricing bill. I'm also told that this is moving along because it looks like the parliamentarian is currently reviewing that proposed legislation to see if it fits into the process of reconciliation. If the majority party passes its partisan bill, it will be bad policy for patients and taxpayers. But that doesn't mean we don't have answers to the problems that they're trying to solve. But first of all, let me say what the Senate proposed legislation, what we know about it, would do. It would put taxpayers at risk for more spending. It would fail to enact